You're watching the Team Nerd Tech Show with your hosts, Tim Gillen and Ruthie Kierlin.
Hello and good day to all nerds everywhere and all ships at sea. Tim Gillen here, Traverse City, Michigan with Terrapin Networks, welcoming you to this week's edition of the Team Nerd Tech Show, our little 30-minute tech digest for small business owners and runners, people who run small businesses, about technology and how it might affect you at the small business level. And we mean small business. We generally talk around here small, like 8, 10, 20 users, that kind of thing. Sometimes our good friends in the government think of a small business as maybe having 100, 200 employees, depending on what market you're in. We're talking about the smaller companies who have really particular tech needs and tech interests, because a lot of things we do in small companies are exactly the same as what a large company does, but other things are not. But they all can't we don't want to just fall into just make it work and whatever, we'll just keep banging away, because technology is the one way that you can safely grow a small company to be very profitable and keep it small. So we like that. And that's what we do here at Terrapin Networks. We've been up in northern Michigan, the northwest corner of lower Michigan, since 1990, supporting companies of all sizes, but always a particular focus on small companies. And now that's all we do is real small companies. So let's get started. I'm joined in Queens, New York with our loyal co-host, Ruthie Kerwin.
Hello.
Ruthie, how are you?
Hi, Tim. I'm good. How are you this week?
Fine, thank you.
If you were following along at home, you can also always check up on any of our show links and information about this episode and past episodes at teamnerdtechshow.com. And I want to get in with you. We've got a lot to go through this week. First off, we're talking about the TrueDialogue breach, which is something regarding SMS text messages getting hacked and a bunch of data getting thrown out into the atmosphere. I want you to fill me in on what exactly happened there. We're also going to be talking more about like ransomware and how small businesses who have been affected by ransomware breaches, how they can recover from that, and what you have seen yourself running your own company as a tech guru for other small businesses, and what you've seen other businesses do when they did have a ransomware attack, how they recovered from that. And then lastly, hopefully we'll have time to talk about this for Tech Gadget. It's one of my favorites because it's something I have been personally using. It's the grayscale mode on your phone, and that might be curbing some phone addiction and making it easier for people. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that, especially since I've been using it. So yeah, let's get started with tech news. This week, let's talk about this article that I found the other day on TechCrunch, where millions of SMS text messages, which are typical text messages from your phone, were exposed from a database run by a company called TrueDialogue. So can you fill me in a little bit about this breach? Who are TrueDialogue and how did this happen?
Yeah, this was a very messy breach. And thank you for finding this for us. I hadn't even seen this. It came out just in the last few days. As a reminder, SMS messaging is the regular text messaging that you do on your phone. It's the original technology from the early 90s as a way for cell phones, they were completely cell phones then, bag phones, whatever you might have, as a way for them to send text messages back and forth. It stands for Simple Messaging Protocol or Standard Messaging Protocol. And it's very open by design. There's no encryption, there's no security, there's no nothing. It just sends out a blurb of text and the other side receives it. Actually, it sends that blurb of text to a server at the cell phone provider, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, whomever, and it hits their servers and then they send it back out to you. So if I'm sending you a text, it goes to the Verizon server. I happen to be on Verizon, and then gets sent out to you wherever you are. So you could be on AT&T. It goes to the originating provider. If you're on AT&T, it goes to their servers. If you're on T-Mobile, it goes to a T-Mobile server. And sits there, by the way, waiting for someone to read it if they feel like it, and then gets sent out to you. So
it lives there like forever, right?
Lives there forever because they don't ever want to get rid of it, and they don't really need to. It takes up very little space. It's all analog text. It takes up very little space, even though there's hundreds of millions of these sent a day, which ends up obviously aggregatingly taking up space. And I don't think it actually lasts forever. I don't know that Verizon has text messages that were sent back in 1994. They may. It wouldn't shock me if they did, but I don't know the answer to that. But certainly anything in the last few years they're going to have. And Another problem with it, I'm going off slightly on a tangent here, is they work very cooperatively with law enforcement, meaning law enforcement says, we'd like to see all the text messages that Tim Gillen sent Ruthie Kerwin. They'll just give them to them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even need a subpoena. They won't tell you. They're very, very, they want to be willing partners and so forth. A lot of this comes after 9/11 and is quasi-Patriot Act, which we can talk about at some point, some of the, frankly, nonsense that's involved in that overdoes a lot of privacy or underdoes a lot of privacy, removes a lot of privacy for us as citizens. But that's a side note. The point here is SMS is real simple text messaging. When you get a text message through messages on your phone, and if you're not using something like Signal or even WhatsApp, which isn't great, but it's better than SMS, or even iMessages, which is still using SMS, it's more of an RMS. It can run rich text, meaning you can make bold, and you can read receipts, a lot of things you can't do with regular SMS messages, but it's still completely unsecured and completely open. So schools, let's talk about schools and colleges and universities are the big users of an outfit like TrueDialogue. TrueDialogue is a company that sells a service that if you've got 10,000 students in your college, you can send out a single text message that will hit all 10,000 students,
Mm-hmm.
or all of the 10,000 students that you have their cell phone number for.
Like we have a snow day or something like
Great
that.
for we have a snow day, great for we have a fire on campus, great for we have an
Mm-hmm.
active shooter on campus, great for any number of things. And so it can be really, really nifty. And schools will use it, back to parents for a snow day.
Mm-hmm.
Companies also will use it as a way to send out text messages to their customers. We have a special on this, we have a special on that. Please go here to download this coupon, whatever it might be. And those usually have an opt-out. You can, reply with stop, and you'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
It'll automatically unsubscribe you, if you want to think of it that way. So it's kind of like mass emailing that a company might do, or that you might do through something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, something like that, but it's all in text. And this TrueDialogue company, ridiculously, had all of their stuff just sitting there where it was wide open, and
With no password.
actually, no, it wasn't even like it was a simple password. No
They just
password.
had it sitting there with no
so
password.
if you could figure out where their server was, which, by the way, is real easy to do, is you can just do an NS lookup. So there's a lot of simple ways that you can find out the actual IP address of the server for this TrueDialogue that's sending out these messages. And you could just go over there and basically just kind of connect to the database. So this had tens of millions.
And the data wasn't encrypted either, was it?
Completely unencrypted.
Plain text.
So yeah, there's
no
another thing.
password.
No password, unencrypted on their server, just sitting there. The irresponsibility on their side. I mean, frankly, they have no right to be in this particular business. And any college who wants to, I mean, I don't know. I was not able, this happened so quickly this last couple of days. I was not able to do any real research to see who their competitors are, because if there's no competitors, man, that's a wide open market, because these guys, frankly, don't deserve to be in business.
No, oh my
I don't
goodness.
always want to go that direction, because anybody can be breached.
Oh yeah.
And it happens when you can have really good stuff in place. You can still, if you become a target of an attack, people can get in. This wasn't, you don't have to be a target of attack. This was actually taking your information and leaving it on a front porch and saying, nobody comes on our front porch. I mean, it's
nobody needs my social security number.
So this had stuff like social security numbers. It had a lot of two-factor identification back and forth, ways to get into Facebook, because not only will a university, for example, use it for mass email or mass text, rather, classes are closed, they due to the ice storm, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They also would use it for one-on-one. So if you were a student, you could text the tech services team and say, I can't get on the network right now. Can you send me my password? And the tech services team would use this TrueDialogue. It wasn't some guy using his cell phone in the IT department at the college. They would use this, excuse me, as the front end to respond to you. So passwords, two-factor identification, codes, all these things are in there with email addresses and so forth attached. So you can get in here, and now
This is
if you're
bananas. I can't believe in this day and age
it's
that a company works this way.
it is utterly irresponsible. And it would be interesting to know now at this point, we have this TechCrunch article with Ruthie, which Ruthie will have in our show links. And
this is episode number 40.
Episode number 40 and the
Mhm.
teamnerdtechshow.com. You can see all these links, and this will take you out to this TechCrunch link if you're interested. It's a short little article because there's not much to say because it's so utterly ridiculous.
Because it's crazy. It really makes you, I know that you trust nobody, so I'm learning from you, right? Because I'm too trusting and you trust nobody. But it does make you kind of wonder about what would be the thought process behind setting up a service like that, where you would have to have some sort of technological know-how to set it up in the first place. So the willful effort that would go into not encrypting and not making it even password protected.
This is a willful dereliction. This isn't an oversight. A lot of what happens with security breaches are holes in security that really no one knows about. That's why you get service pack update or security updates every month from Microsoft for Windows, and 3 or 4 times
Patch
a year
Tuesday
from
or
Apple,
whatever, yeah.
Patch Tuesday, which is the second Tuesday of every month, or Apple. A lot of their updates that they do in between times on your Android phone from Verizon, for example, you might get a monthly security update that just because things that they don't know are holes get found by the bad guys, and they realize it and they patch them. That happens. It's not because someone willfully left something wide open. It's because you thought you buttoned your whole house down, but it turns out there is one way in. If you go over next to the dryer vent, you can reach a hanger in there. And that's how minor some of this stuff is, although the bad guys may try to get into your house through the dryer vent.
Through the dryer vent, absolutely.
Right.
Which is why you have then preventative and also recovery measures in place, correct?
Yeah. But in the meantime, they'll realize, okay, we got to shut down this dryer vent. This is the analogous thing to it. There's something really small. We've got all the doors and windows locked, but there's actually other ways in that somebody found. Some goofball who decided they were going to find any way in found it. It's very different than someone who just left everything wide open and said, we're just making money, man. We're getting money off of every text message. So just bring in the dough. We'll deal with this later.
So if you were a small business, or if you were a college or something like that, using a company like TrueDialogue or TrueDialogue, what should you ask before you institute something like this? How can you make sure that you're hiring a company that's going to be on the up and up when it comes to handling sensitive data like this? Because it was an outsourced thing.
So they being this TrueDialogue, were obviously pretty good at projecting one thing and in the background doing quite another. Now, here's the problem. What do we talk about a lot as a business owner, a small business owner especially? Don't let yourself use the threshold or the rule, if you will, of just keep it running. Just of telling your tech team, just listen, we got business to do, just keep it running. That's where shortcuts come in.
Yeah.
And clearly, the message from this TrueDialogue was, listen, the texts are all going out. Every time you need to send a text out to all 10,000 students, it goes, man. All right? This thing works.
It was working. Yeah,
it works.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Here's another thing that shows you, what do I say frequently about why we don't want to say just to our tech team as the business owner, just keep it running. Because all bad things happen to a computer system, a tech system, when it's running.
There has never. What was it you said to me a few years ago with that great big Target breach?
There's never been a breach that's ever happened when things were down.
Yes, exactly.
You want to have perfect security, turn everything off.
Yeah.
But so it always happens when things are running. So that's just, and we tend to think that way. Just keep it running, and we'll keep it running, and then we'll kind of deal with the rest of the stuff as it comes up. Well, that's what they're doing here, I guess. Because by all accounts, from what I could tell from a quick look, these people have a zillion customers because they're good at getting the texts out.
Because it quote unquote works the way that it should, even though it doesn't.
It was working.
But it quote unquote works
exactly.
The way it should.
So there's always stuff behind the scenes that needs to be in place, and we think it doesn't have to be in place. We think of it sometimes as optional, which these guys clearly did. They thought, well, it'll be good for us to take some time to do it, but right now we're keeping all of our resources to make sure these texts get out. And that's really clearly this is a great example for if there's a takeaway for us as a small business, that when the tech team wants to do some stuff behind the scenes, don't say to them, how will this help me sell one more insurance policy? That's not the issue. Because if someone would have sent to these guys, or maybe even their own CEO, okay, how will this help us send one more text? Well, I guess it won't, boss. Then don't do it. I want you to put your time into getting these texts out. And there may have been a whole tech team in the background who's been hammering on management to let them button this stuff down. And management said, no, our mission is to get texts out. So it's important that we don't think of it that way as the business owner. How will this help me sell one more widget? If you can't show me how it'll sell one more widget, don't do it. That's not how technology works. And you don't want to think of it that way because you leave yourself open to real problems.
Okay, so if you're only just joining us now, this is the Team Nerd Tech Show with your host, Tim Gillen. I'm Ruthie Kirwan. And we're going to be moving in now to our segment of Tech Tip. And for this, Tim, I want you to kind of keep in mind of what we were just talking about in tech news, how it's important to know what's going on in the back end of a company in order to keep the front end moving. With the idea of a data breach or ransomware or anything, what have you seen with some of the companies that you've worked with Terrapin Networks when they are attacked by ransomware and how they then recover? Like, is this something that you see often with some of the companies that you work with?
Well, no, we actually had a little run of ransomware about 3 years ago now, where we're three different companies that we support, that we're the tech manager for, had ransomware attacks all within about 3 months of each other, something like that. And in all cases, all their data was encrypted on their servers, one case including their email. And they came in one morning and went to open up any file they opened. A little thing came up that said, you've been hacked through ransomware.
Nightmare.
You need to send us this kind of Bitcoin. Here's the link to go to and send us the money. We'll send you the encryption key. Now, in all three cases, no one had to pay anything. We were able to completely recover all the data through good backups, which is really the key for ransomware. Is there's a lot of stuff, as we've talked about in some other episodes, coming out now for decryption keys. There's a whole organization of open source people who are working on ways to decrypt. And as a quick reminder, ransomware. What happens is you run a piece of malware inadvertently somehow. There's a variety of ways you get it. Most common way is an email comes in and it says something like, your UPS package is ready. Here's the link. And you, oh, well, it's UPS. I get UPS all the time. Maybe I'll click this link. And when you click that link, it's actually not a link to any kind of UPS or FedEx. It's a link to a piece of software that then quietly runs in the background, now gets on your network, lets itself spread around a bit. And then on a particular day or time, someone on the outside ignites it or turns it on or however you want to think of it. And it encrypts all your files. And they're now held ransom. If you give me X amount of money, I will give you a key which will unencrypt all your files. So you can't get to any of your Excel spreadsheets, can't get to your QuickBooks data, can't get to your Sage data, CRM data, whatever it might be. It's all locked up until you pay this money. And the money's all paid through Bitcoin, so you can't trace it. That's all the cryptocurrency. It might sound confusing, but it basically means you don't know where the money goes. And you'll get a key in almost all cases. You think, well, if I pay the money and don't get the key, you'll get the key because they don't want the word getting out.
They want it to work.
They want it to work
Yeah.
because that way the next guy will hear that if you pay the key, if you pay the money, you'll get the key or keys or however you want to think of it. You don't want to pay the key, of course, and it can sometimes be very expensive. And I mean, $50,000, $20,000, $200,000, $1 million, all depending on the size of your company. They generally want to size it to such that you might actually pay it. So if you've got a small company, they're not going to ask for $1 million because they know you're not going to pay it. And this is all about
ask for 20,000.
They're going to ask for 20,000 that you might actually find exactly
Yeah.
the kind of money you might actually pay to make this go away, as much as you hate doing it. Now, the way around that, and there's a whole variety of things that we do to shut off the threat and clean everything. But more than that is we have to do restores from backup. And this is where good backups really come into play. And frequent backups, not twice a week, not every time you do payroll, not even once a day, several times a day in most cases, what you want to have in place. And that's what recovers. In all three of our cases that we had, good backups saved the day. Now, we completely were able to restore everything. No one paid a dime. But let's not overlook what happened. This was a colossal mess. In all three of our cases, we got them cleaned up through these restores, and there was no further problems. In all three cases, we were able to identify a single employee that clicked on a single link.
Every single time. That's
all
where
three
it
times.
started.
In our case, all three times. Yeah. And in one of the cases, for example, the owner said, well, let's kind of keep this quiet. She's a good staff member. I don't want to do that to her. And I actually counseled the opposite, which they did. This is really important that this person and everyone knows what happened. You don't have to hold this person, you don't have to hang them out to dry, but it's important that everybody knows this, because this was inadvertent and not done with bad intent. And that's the whole point. These are easy links to fall for. So the more education all of us have about how easy it is, the better chance the next person won't do it.
So that's what you would recommend for a company as their best source of prevention, is educating their staff?
Well, if you think about, again, I'll refer to the William Kimball show that we did a couple episodes back during the Cyber Defense Technologies cybersecurity expert. One that we recently did with Scott Tabor from the Michigan Small Business Development Center.
That's an upcoming episode. Yep.
Yep. In an upcoming episode, we'll have some nice detail from that also. That people tend to be the largest source for these kind of problems.
Yeah.
And by people, we mean staff inside who inadvertently click on something that they shouldn't click on. They get fooled. These are phishing attacks, PHISH, phishing, and where they're just throwing some bait off the back of the boat and seeing if anybody bites. And so these get sent out. It shows up. It comes from someone you know, makes you think it's okay. That's not anything ever to go by, because that's easy enough to spoof from somebody else. You might get an email from Mary@acmewidgets.com, and it didn't come from Mary@acmewidgets.com. It just said it came from Mary. So it doesn't even mean that Mary@acmewidgets was somehow compromised. Someone that she sent an email to a year ago might have been compromised. So this stuff all has all this tangled web and degrees of separation that make it hard to root out where it actually came from,
and without giving away too much private data, obviously, and private information. Can you tell me like what one of these emails actually said? What happened in one of your companies?
In all three cases, it was an email that came from someone that they thought they recognized. Now, it might have been generic,
okay,
like it came from FedEx.
Got it.
Okay. In no case, in all three cases, it was an email where the user thought they weren't surprised that it wasn't. They weren't
surprised that it came.
Exactly. It wasn't. I have no idea who this is. I better click this 5 times. That's not.
Yeah.
And these things tend to run silently in the background. So you click the link, you don't see anything happening.
The malware will.
Yes. Thank you. And so you'll tend to click it and click it and click it, which means if your antivirus is trying to stop the first one, if it's able to, even the second or third one can get through, because it kind of gets overwhelmed. So it's not that it came from, I'm a Nigerian prince and here's a way for you to, it's generally not that. People aren't falling for stuff that's out of left field. People are educated enough to think, well, I always get email from Mary@acmewidgets.com, or I get stuff from FedEx from time to time. Now, FedEx will never send you a link like that. They'll send you a tracking number. But even then, you can tell if it comes from FedEx. And if you have any questions, just go out to the FedEx site and type in a tracking number. Don't follow the link. Usually security is not convenient. So if it's too convenient, that should kind of be a worry.
So I want to know, what did you do then to make it? Now, you said these all happened about 3 years ago, but you haven't had anything since. Was that because of something that you instituted in these companies? Like, did you, as Terrapin Networks, do something specific? Well,
we talked about it very openly with all of our customers, without sharing anyone's name or hanging anyone out to dry. There's no need to do that. But, we've had 3 of these now, and here's what happened. Here's what people did. And people just clicked on one of these links, and here's what it did. Now, in all cases, we had a spare tire in place. We had the backups in place. We were able to, but just because you're using your spare tire, that means you had a blowout someplace and you're kneeling down by the side of the road, probably in the rain, changing your tire. It's a mess no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
To answer the question, what did we do to help our users not have this happen so much, was we instituted some more layers. of security, which i.e. a little bit of hassle, and we convince them it's worth them putting up with. And the hassle, frankly, is a little short-lived. After a while, it settles down. It's not so much of a hassle, but encourage your tech team to put those kind of things in place. Let them know that you're willing to put up with it as an extra layer of protection, because it's worth avoiding that blowout. It's worth avoiding getting that ransomware that can just really be a mess.
Welcome back to the Team Nerd Tech Show with your host, Tim Gillen. I am Ruthie Kirwan. If you are just joining us, we are moving in now to Tech Gadget, which is our final kind of fun little segment of the show. We like to highlight here some of the more entertaining or interesting aspects of technology that have happened recently, or maybe an idea or something that we think that you should try. With this, I found this article on wired.com about using grayscale on your phone. And it's a concept that's been around for a while in terms of saving battery, but this is also about curbing phone addiction. And I didn't realize it was a thing, so I've been kind of trying it out. Have you tried this, Tim, grayscale on your phone? It's a little tricky to get set up sometimes.
Yeah, no, I actually haven't tried it yet. I'm aware of it, and I like to think my iron discipline makes it unnecessary, which is not at all true. I should try it. And what Ruthie's talking about is you put your phone into grayscale, and it's not quite so bright and shiny.
Well, it's not, colorful. There's no colors.
It's not colorful, so it's not as attractive. It becomes now more of a tool like they used to be, and not something that you can just while away an hour before you realize it, just floating around on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. And so it's a way for you to make you treat your phone more like a tool. And some of the apps, there's no apps that really do it. Well, there are apps that do it, but they don't. Most of what we have linked here, and what Ruthie has linked from wired.com, which is Wired Magazine, and they have a good website. Often it has a lot of really good tips in it. And it gives you the how to do it both for an Android phone or an iOS phone. Now, there's a lot to it. You got to click about 6 places.
You do. I have an Android. It's a what is this, like an S8 or something like that. So it's not super new. And it took me a while of fiddling around with, and I'm pretty comfortable with my phone, and I still had to fiddle for a good while to get it going, because I was curious. One of the problems that I have is that at night after my kids go to bed, I wind up whiling away 2 hours on the phone. And so last night I put it in grayscale, and I got bored with my phone a lot faster than I normally do. You know, I've said this before, I love Instagram, and all of those kinds of platforms use specific coloring in their buttons, in their scroll things, and just their branding to get you to stay on it longer. I mean, that's a known fact. So I did find with grayscale that I wasn't as interested in Instagram, obviously, because I couldn't see any photos. So it was kind of boring.
Now, when the next morning came around, I mean, is it something that you went through turning off? Do you see yourself?
You have to turn it off. It seems that, so there's two things that I wanted to mention about this concept. There's a movement called gogray.com. And I'm going to link that in here, which was kind of interesting, about kind of like basically getting your life back and not being stuck to your phone all the time, and how to live with grayscale. But there's also a new digital well-being coming through with the new Android updates.
Yeah.
And it seems, I hope that you will be able to schedule almost like a do not disturb. At the moment, with the update that I'm on, which is the most current update that you can get for a Samsung Galaxy, what did I say? S8 or S9 that I have. I don't have it, but I think that it will be coming in with more that you can start scheduling in grayscale, which for me would be great. If I can use it during the day with color when I'm actually using it for work, and then my entertainment stuff is with the grayscale, or maybe vice versa, to kind of get me off Instagram at my lunch break or Facebook or what. I don't use the Facebook app, but still similar.
Same thing. So as a tech tip for folks, and by the way, this movement, which is kind of bringing the minimalist movement to smartphones, which is kind of funny. We're going to take really high-end technology and try to
digital minimalism,
back it down a bit,
which is a mouthful. Digital minimalism is a movement to itself, you know?
It sure is. And an authentic one, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
People it's easy to get sucked into the stuff. This stuff is designed to keep your attention. Nobody makes any money. I mean, again, keep in mind why Instagram and Facebook and all these things are free. It's because the people who put them out there make money by you using them, because they can sell where you go for advertising dollars. These are designed through psychology to encourage you to keep on scrolling and stay. And that's where Ruthie says, and we've all had this happen. Next thing you know, an hour has passed or more, and you tell yourself you're doing productive things, but then kind of you really weren't, and several things didn't get done because you were just dinking around with this.
Yeah.
And so this movement, Ruthie will have the link out here. GoGray.today is actually a top level domain called .today. So GoGray.today. We'll have the link out at the teamnerdtechshow.com. But there's no doubt that people who report back who've been doing this, any of us who picked up our phone to check an email message, I just check Facebook while I'm here. I mean, it's hard not to do, and 20 minutes have passed.
Totally.
It might be in the middle of your work day, and then at the end of the day, you didn't get as much done. You
think I'll just do 10 minutes and then it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Always for me. So I will report back maybe in a couple of weeks. I'm going to keep it on grayscale for at least a few days and see if it curbs my Instagram addiction. But so far it's easy. It's easy to use. It definitely makes my phone more boring, which, like you said, makes it into more of a tool, which it should be. My phone should be a tool, not the way that I distract myself in the evenings when I have other things that I should be doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring that up and see what your thoughts were. But I think that is also our show here. We are already hitting at half an hour, which is nuts. It's crazy how time goes. But thank you very much for joining us here with the Team Nerd Tech Show. Thank you for hanging out with me again this week, Tim. As always. I will check in with you next week. If you have any questions or concepts or issues that you'd like to ask Tim, we can always answer we can always answer one of your questions on an upcoming episode. You can leave us a voicemail at our phone number here. It's 231-668-9175. You can also send us an email message. Our email is teamnerd@terrapin.tech, or you can head on over to terrapin.tech or the teamnerdtechshow.com and leave us a message on our contact form. There's lots of different ways to get in touch with us. Plus all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of that good stuff. This was episode number 40. If you want to look it up for any past episodes on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, or at teamnerdtechshow.com. And I think that is everything for this week. And like I said, let's catch up again next week. Solve the world's problems.
Sounds
one
good.
tech tip at a time.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tim. See ya.